The Commanders just had their best defensive game in almost 2 months, and it came in the first game after Joe Whitt was relieved of his play calling duties and Dan Quinn took over. Doesn't mean that's the only reason why it happened. They leveled down in competition. Miami was the worst team that the Commanders have played since the Cowboys on October 19th, but they were specifically the worst offense that the Commanders have played, probably since their last win on October 5th against the super banged-up Chargers team, because I think the Bears have had big-time games and moments. The Cowboys' offense is elite. Kansas City was humming when they played them. Seattle, Detroit, better than Miami. So that might have been a factor, too. But my question, Danny, is if they prove that what happened Sunday in Madrid isn't a blip or a dead cat bounce after a coach loses a job where everybody buttons down for a week and plays at a high level before you go back to just what you were.
Yeah, you sink down now.
If they go up against Denver, not a great offense, so this could happen, out of the bye week with an extra week to prepare, and they play another inspired game and hold them to 17 to 20 points or something and look like an NFL defense again. And then they play Minnesota, and it might happen because J.J. McCarthy has not been good. He looks like he stinks. And maybe you hold them under 20 points. And we get to 3 or 4 games in a row where this defense is playing like they did against the Dolphins. Is there a path to Joe Whitt being the defensive coordinator next year where you go back to him as your play caller and just say, yeah, it got a lot better after we went away from him, and it makes his stretch as the play caller look horrendous, but we're going to run that back anyway?
So I've been under the, and I think you may disagree with this, but I've been under the view that he's not coming back regardless.
You think it's over right now?
I think the instant you lose the thing that you do, what do you do here? What do you helping with the PowerPoints? Does Dan go next slide, please? And what do you do?
Aren't there plenty of guys in history that have lost play calling duties for a short time and gotten them back?
It doesn't feel like that to me, but to me, it's always the precursor for.
See if you can find that.
The responsibility that you have has been taken away from you. And I'm too nice to fire you right now, but in the off season, when we have a chopping list, that's one of the to-do items. So I've been operating under that. Now, I could be wrong, obviously. I mean, what do I know? But so that's kind of what I've thought. It'll be especially nail in the coffin if the scenario you just laid out happens. If they're improved at all after the months where they were beyond horrendous. And again, there's no top 10, there's no excellence here. They're too beat up, they're too limited, there's not much you can really do. But if you perform like you did against Miami, bend, don't break, make a play or two inside the red zone and hold the team to, whatever it was, 4 scoring drives, you'll take that certainly compared to giving up 40 a week, which is what they did for a whole month. That's what they did. They just finished doing it. If you get some improvement, it basically goes, you can't help but look at the previous sample and go, that was pretty awful. This is just regular bad. There's a difference between failing the test with a 55 and failing with a 12. You were turning in 12s. I'm failing with 50s. That's a major departure. That would be the nail in the coffin.
My first search here, has anybody lost play calling duties and gotten them back? Responds with a bunch of names. They're all head coaches, though, that have toggled back and forth. So I don't think it's relevant. Like, it doesn't help what we're trying to find. In other words, Kevin Stefanski with the Browns at points in his tenure has given up play calling duties. He just did again.
Yeah.
Tommy Reese, I guess it is, the former Notre Dame guy. He's called plays for Shedeur Sanders to go 4 for 16 this past week. Mike McCarthy of the Packers and the Cowboys has done this, where he's got the play calling, gives up the play calling, takes it back. Frank Reich, Carolina. Andy Reid, Kansas City. Some of the names. But that's not the same as a coordinator who calls the plays, loses that duty, and then gets it back. I'm sure it's happened. I just don't have good
I'm sure it has too, but it just feels like you're now, your legs are out from underneath you. You're no longer of use because we need someone to do that. I don't get the sense that Dan Quinn wants to do it. That's my feelings. I don't think Dan Quinn wants to go through that. He'd rather be the CEO and, be there for every meeting and be there for every, lend a helping hand, obviously, because he's a defensive focused guy. But I think he wants to be CEO, everybody's grandpa, versus, running the defense. I don't think he wants to run that show. I think he wants to cede play calling to somebody. You can't give it back to the guy who stinks, or whose sample stinks anyway.
Sean Desai of the Eagles lost his play calling duties, got fired after when the year ended.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Johnson loses his play calling duties. He ended up in Washington, obviously, still on the offensive staff. But that is the trajectory more normally, to your point. So when he originally lost his play calling duties, first, I didn't know if it was a week thing, 2-week thing, rest of the season thing. It certainly feels like it's going to be the rest of the season. But my initial response, you're right, was I don't know that the book is written completely. Because my point is, if you're going to fire him at the end of the year, fire him now. It does him no good. It does nobody any good to just cut him off at the knees and have him crawl around in the hallways. What is the benefit to keeping Joe Whitt on staff in this lesser role? Perhaps they like him leading meetings. They like that, what he can provide while not calling plays. And they thought it was just a Sunday from 1 to 4 problem. I don't know. But the more I've thought about it, regardless of how the rest of the season goes, I think it's really, really hard to make the case that's pro Joe Whitt. Here's what I mean. You were just referencing like if it gets better. So let's go that way first.
Yep.
If they play a lot better defense, and I think naturally there's just a chance of that happening anyway because the competition, Denver with Bo Nix, Minnesota with J.J. McCarthy. I really like what Jackson Dart has shown, but he's a rookie who turns the ball over with New York. Like that's 3 more games. You'll have 4 in a row against quarterbacks that are not in the top 10 to 12, 13, 14 in the league. It's basically like, at best, I would say somewhere in that 16 to 20 range, or worse in McCarthy's case and right now in Dart's case in terms of where you would rank guys. But if you go through a really nice second half run here, and the defense post Joe Whitt play calling goes from, you look at all the chart and the numbers, and it's like you were giving up 472 yards. Then it became 396. You were giving up X yards per play. Look at the pressure getting better. Look at the third downs getting better. That looks terrible for Joe Whitt. The other side of it is, okay, what would look best for Joe Whitt? Just his business, LLC, joewitt.org/defensive coordinator homepage. The best thing for him might be that you make the change and it doesn't get any better. Is that fair?
Yep.
Because now you go, well, he wasn't the problem. So the Dolphins game, let's just say, is a one-off.
Like if you change a bunch of variables, it's all the same. You go, okay, it wasn't those things.
Exactly. And so now Denver lights you up and Bo Nix throws for 317 and you give up a couple big plays to Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton goes nuts. Minnesota gets Justin Jefferson going for $162 and Addison goes for 98 and Hawkinson goes for 65 and J.J. McCarthy has a career day. The Giants run for 129 because Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy have big games, and Jackson Dart throws 3 touchdowns and pulls a Daniel Jones against you. And like it's just the same as it was before. At least Joe Whitt then can say, I tried to tell you guys, man, this wasn't just me.
Right.
But how does that help him keep his job? That's still on him because he's the defensive coordinator. Even though he's not calling plays on Sunday.
Yeah, no one's saying this is fair, by the way.
Yes.
Right? Look, and that's kind of been my view all along.
And I'm not rooting against him. He seems like a nice guy. But what is the where can I land this plane that says he keeps his job? What is that runway for him?
And I think it's one of those like neighborhood runways where someone's got a little bit of flat dirt and they're like, okay, an emergency, try this. I don't see it. I think the instant he lost play calling duties, Dan Quinn's too nice to fire him now and make it seem like he's the scapegoat, he's the problem.
But if that's true, shouldn't he have just fired him?
I would have.
It's not nice to have someone twist in the wind. If he knows he's a dead body and you know he's a dead body, I mean, proverbially here, like, how is that the nice thing to do?
Again, I don't see it that way, but I'm trying to put myself in those shoes. This is if we blow this guy out now, I'm blaming him. It's on him. He's the problem, right? And then if it doesn't get better, everyone goes, well, wait a minute, you fired the guy, it didn't get any better. Now don't have to look at you. This is the way to, I think, have your cake and eat it too, which is to go, we just needed a change. We're switching something up, but I still love Joe. Joe's still my guy. And you get to do the brotherhood and you get to do where everybody's in it together and he's still a valuable piece, even though you've made him not valuable, quite literally. You've made a guy with
do the what?
The brotherhood piece. Like you're basically, you're espousing brotherhood. So if you walk the brotherhood tightrope and you then betray one of the members of your brotherhood, can you really walk the brotherhood tightrope anymore? You're not brotherhood. You're out of brotherhood.
Have you ever seen Robin Hood?
Men in Tights.
No, the good one. Robin
Prince
Hood,
of Thieves?
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, silly.
God, it's so good.
It is great.
He's a terrible actor, and his accent undulates the entire movie.
It's sometimes British, sometimes not.
he tries every now, and there's a couple scenes where you could tell he's like thinking about doing an accent, but not. That's a great film, though. It's been a while since I've seen it. Any kind of movie like that where they're getting ready for a fight scene and they're like melting little like metal and doing all this kind of stuff. Pretty good movie.
Alan Rickman, rest in peace. He was awesome as a sheriff of Nottingham. But the more the dude's story is, again, I don't think you should do this. Like, I think you either do it or don't. But I think this to me was the way to You have to do something, and then they have to do something that should have happened weeks ago, but they had to do something. They had to make a big production, but they would like all this talk to go away.
Well, let me ask this question. If anyone wants to hop in, or you can tweet us at Grant H. Paulson at Funny Danny. Is there something that could happen with this defense that would benefit Joe Whitt enough that at the end of the year, he keeps his job? Because the way I'm viewing it, either the defense plays a lot better, like they did against Miami, and you look bad, and they go in a different direction. Or the defense just plays the same or worse, at which point you're the DC and you're wearing that anyway, even though you've lost play calling duties. So now, after 2 years and a bad season and being one of the worst defenses in the league, you're probably screwed. I don't see a path forward where you bring him back to call the plays as the coordinator next year. But I think if that's completely true, then Dan would have just probably fired him when he demoted him. In Quinn's mind, maybe he does think, let's just get through the darkest part of this patch here. Let's get through these down times, and I can go back to you. It won't make sense, but maybe he feels like he could just justify it by going up to the mic and saying, hey, I trust in Joe. He's really good at this. You'll see. The injuries. Let's go to Adam in Mechanicsville on the Fan. What's up, Adam?
Hey, gents. Yeah, the only runaway I can see him landing is with demotion, possibly. I mean, Dan Quinn holds him close. Prior Cowboys, tenureship with they shared tenure together, and possibly he lands maybe the linebackers or something like that. If the only reason I can see him hanging on to him still right now is possibly a future demotion and still being on the staff, the defensive staff, possibly.
Meaning, like, if he became the DBs and pass game coordinator under a new DC, like a Jonathan Gannon got fired by the Cardinals.
Yeah, you'd have to basically tear up the old deal and say, we're not paying you defensive coordinator money to be a position coach.
Why would he do that, though?
Yeah, he would rather, well, who knows? If the thought is, I'm just playing that out. I can't possibly get another gig if I'm Joe Whitt as a defensive coordinator. I don't know. But you wouldn't think that's the case.
But even still, he would, I would imagine, have too much pride to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something admirable about not having an ego sometimes. But there's a difference, Danny, if we were to lose our jobs, between us doing something here versus in another station or another market. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah.
Like you're going, you were my DC and you ran all these meetings and you called all the plays on Sundays. But now, just do this work and hand the sheet to someone else to do all that.
Yeah, like you guys are doing an afternoon drive, and now we'll trust you once a week to do overnight board op. Like, I'd probably have to go somewhere else.